Are you? Good.
Hi, this is Victoria.
Hi, Victoria. You're on speakerphone. We're going to be starting the meeting shortly.
Okay, I'm going to try to join on YouTube also from my computer at home. So, but if there's any feedback, I'll mute myself.
Okay. So then I will remind everybody to put your microphones on so she can hear.
Can the room hear me? Is that how? I don't know.
Hear you. Can you hear us?
I can hear most of you. I heard somebody speak. I don't know who
Is there any feedback when this microphone works?
Okay.
Maybe because your phone,
Thank you.
is your phone next to it or something?
No, I was just checking to make sure.
iPhone.
I'm sorry?
No, just making sure there's no feedback when it's a phone.
Okay. We don't have an audience, Victoria, so it's just 4 members right now, and Steve and Andrew and myself.
I'm an Android guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a quorum?
So
Yeah, 4's a quorum.
Okay.
And hundreds of
Also, I just didn't want to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like twice the size.
It's thinner now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Because I can operate from this one. And it's easy to put in my pocket. Or use it.
Smaller profile.
There's Alexandra. And Chris, Jennifer called and said she would not be attending tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Find the minutes.
Does that serve as a volunteer for being nominated for
Every position?
Every position.
I think that's the rule, right?
Right.
You missed the reorganization meeting. I think that's what happened last year.
Happened to me last time.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's how you've gotten to your position. So.
That's why you get it when everybody takes one step back and you're only one step standing forward. All right, so we're ready to go then?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start the meeting for, what's today's date? February 26th, 2026. Lower Saucon Township Planning Commission meeting. Let's see. So the roll call, we have, let's see. All right. Myself, Chris Nagy, Jennifer Peters, not here, Thomas Bartek, Veronica Gress, Shorav Kaushik.
Here.
Oh, correct me, because I'll forget.
No, it's good.
Okay. Alexandria Janchik.
Here.
And the chairman is no longer here, right?
Right. He was
Okay.
not reappointed. He didn't request to be.
All right, so now we go to, well, we have enough for a forum. Now we go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
All right, so we have next item on the agenda is public comments. There's nobody from the public here today. So then we go into reorganization. So we have the appointment of positions for 2026. We start off with the appointment of the chair. Do we have a nomination for appointment of the chair?
I have a nomination. I nominate Chris Nagy for chair.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so be it. Chris Nagy is the chair. We have
But once you nominate, then yeah, you're actually just technical, not that it matters. Let's ask, are there any other nominations, first of all?
Oh, okay. Any other nominations?
And then there's none. And then we vote on whether we want to have Chris Nagy as the chair.
That's right. Thank you for that.
I like your chances, by the way.
Because I failed that protocol, I think I should.
No, you're still stuck.
All right, so we have all those in favor, say yay.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nope. All right, so now we go to vice chair. Do I have a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Jennifer Peters. She's been on the committee for a while, right? On the commission for a while, experience-wise. And she served with last year with I think the last 2 years as secretary.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None. So we have the vice chair as Jennifer Peters. Now we have the position of secretary. Do we have any nominations for secretary?
I would just like to, the secretary does have a few duties, same as the chair, as far as having to come in once in a while and sign plans before they're recorded. So that's basically what the secretary's duties are.
That's it.
You don't actually
Don't
have to
quote me
do
on
it.
that's it, but that's the majority of what you do.
You don't have to be, you're not responsible for the minutes.
But we can work on changing that.
Yeah, I can do that.
We do have a nomination for secretary.
I nominate Thomas Bartek.
I'm okay with that.
You have a second?
Thank goodness.
Any other nominations? Seeing forward, all those in favor for Thomas as secretary?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So we have our secretary. Next is that's all the positions. Next we have the designation of meeting date and time for 2026. Currently, we have been doing the fourth Thursday of the month, except for November and December, which are held on third Thursday due to the holidays. And the time is at 7 p.m. Do we have, anybody do we have any discussions on changes to that?
I'm okay with it.
We're okay with moving forward to that?
They may have wiggle room for time, but due to all the other commissions and committees and stuff, there's not a lot of wiggle room on the actual date.
Does 7 o'clock work for everybody?
It's fine.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So we will continue with the fourth Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Right, the next item on the agenda is the business items, but we had one planned that's been X'd off for this month. So the next we have miscellaneous business items, and we have data center draft ordinance review and discussion. I'll pass that on to the council. If you want to briefly, you sent out a letter explaining everything.
So the township is, terrible echo someplace. The township is trying to get ahead of various issues, one of them being data centers. Data centers, as you probably know, if you've read the paper, have become a very hot topic. They're coming into the area, they're coming everywhere, which is, just a natural progression of things. The way the law works is we would want our ordinances to be able to identify where a data center could go and under what conditions. the first reaction sometimes from people is, well, I don't want it there, I don't want it in our ordinance at all. And from a municipal standpoint, that's literally the worst thing you can do. If it's not there, then it allows a landowner to then essentially challenge, and if they're successful, they can put their projected use anywhere where they want it. So you can put it in all the zoning ordinances. So the first reaction that some people have when they look at this type of ordinance is, I don't want to be seen as pro data center. You're not being pro data center. You're regulating data centers, and you're making sure that they're at the appropriate place with the appropriate setbacks, the appropriate requirements, and so on and so forth. So that's the concept as to where we are. From a time standpoint, I believe Township Council has moved promptly on this, and it's being moved for advertisement very soon, so it's on the next, or a soon-to-be agenda, if not the next one, a soon-to-be one. Right now, Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is also currently reviewing this. They had their committee meeting a couple days ago, and it's actually before their full group tonight at the same time. So the concept is that we're going to be providing some comments, so they'll be incorporated into the ordinance. Lehigh Valley Planning Commission will probably do that. Township Council may do that informally also, and then it'll be advertised all at once with the idea that come probably March or April, it'll be passed. That's the plan. So the idea was to bring this before you. I know members of the Planning Commission who have some background have probably seen these before somewhere, but we haven't seen it as a Planning Commission for an extended period of time. I know since I've been with you guys, we have not done this. So whenever there's an ordinance that requires Planning Commission input, it's sent to the Planning Commission first to say, okay, here's some of the things we like about it, here's some things we don't like about it, here's some of the things we're concerned about, here's something we'd like our engineer to look at, and that's our opportunity tonight to do that. And you might say, look, it looks great, I don't need any comments, or I don't have any comments, but that's totally up to you. So it's really open for discussion, and then we're free to pass that on to staff, meaning myself and the engineer, and we take it from there.
Who drafted this one?
It was Hanover Engineering drafted it.
Okay.
And they modeled it after, I believe, the most current and what they believe to be one of the better ordinances at that time, which was someplace up in the Poconos. I know that since that time, there have been new data center ordinances being enacted everywhere, so they're getting better and better as we go. So they're going to take bits and pieces, but I think from when they did it, that's kind of the best one that was out there. Andrew, do you feel comfortable adding anything for that?
I wasn't personally involved in developing the ordinance, but my office was, Brian Tucker, as you guys know. I have read through it, and I do have some points I'd like to discuss with you guys at some point. It doesn't have to be now if you guys want to continue on with your thoughts on the ordinance as a whole.
I have a point that I'd like to bring up, but I'm happy to do it.
We could just start going through this top and bottom if you want to, and people could bring up their points.
I like that idea.
Okay. I don't know what somebody's giving feedback.
I think you are.
Andrew, do you want to maybe go through it? You don't have to read it to us, but maybe go through it section by section, maybe explain each section, and we could ask questions as we come across it.
Yep.
Sort of the way you do it in your letter, where you go through an application.
Yeah, I would gladly do that.
Now, a lot of this stuff, before we start, a lot of this stuff is taken out of our ordinance as well, right?
There are portions that tie back to our ordinance.
Yeah.
So I guess the main point is the intended use is obviously data centers, but the location in the township is light manufacturing zoning district, which is roughly south of Steel City, if you're familiar, like where the landfill is and whatnot. That's light manufacturing. And there's also a portion of light manufacturing on Easton Road. The Menlo land development project was supposed to come before you today was in the light manufacturing district on Easton Road as well. So
But as far as the language goes, and they pulled a lot of the language from the light manufacturing ordinance. Trying to figure out where that feedback's coming from.
Steve, can you turn your microphone off? Here, is it better now?
Try it.
I think it's better. Yeah.
Or maybe turn the microphones off, you might not need them.
Okay. If you wanna, is it all right, if you wanna just start from the top and go through, and
Yeah.
we'll add our comments to as we see fit.
So the first few pages are, well, I guess we could start from square one. Towards the bottom of page one, it describes what a data center is, or defines a data center accessory uses, cryptocurrency mining facilities, and data center equipment.
Sorry, I had
Yeah.
that's one of the things I had a point about.
You could turn your mic on, and I'll turn mine off.
Does anybody need copies?
Could I have a copy?
Yeah. Oh, please.
I'm much better with paper.
Yeah. Is there a way to prohibit the type of data center being used? Just because, you know, there's data centers that, you know, in the eyes of some people might produce intrinsic value. And then there's, you know, cryptocurrency, which in the opinions of some people, like, might not have a use case and might use resources and electricity and, you know, cause potential pollution issues and other issues in the township and society-wide. You know, some members of the community might think are not adding to the economy and adding value. This might be an opinion that some people in the township have, whereas, you know, data center that, you know, powers large language models, that powers businesses, you know, does certainly add an economic value to you know, the world as a whole, the country as a whole, the community. Would it be possible to, if the township wanted to limit the type of data center use?
I could fill in on that one.
Yeah.
That would not be, although it's certainly an understandable concern, it would be an unwise legal position for us to take.
Yeah.
So that gets us into legal hot water very quickly if we're doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that might be the answer. I thought I'd ask though.
Sure, no, it's a good question. This is uncharted territory for many people, and it's a rapidly developing field.
I do have a question about
Yeah.
the data center. In this area where it's going, where I live, we're constantly out of power. They're gonna have large generators, I'm assuming, to keep it running, and the noise in the area is gonna be overwhelming. So how do we handle that?
Yeah, those are great points. We do actually, in this ordinance edition, we do discuss power usage as well as noise complaints. So, or not complaints, I should say. There's regulations in regards to the noise that can be produced. And actually, that was one of the points that I wanted to bring up with Steve on his later date, was to maybe have it a little more in line with our ordinance in regards to noise. So how this current ordinance is set up is there's a noise restriction across the board around the property line. How our ordinances, our zoning ordinance has noise restrictions, it's based off of the receiving land use. So if you have a residential home next to, say, a warehouse, there's different noise restrictions to a warehouse next to a warehouse. So I thought that may be a little better in line with what we would want to do with the data center in case the light manufacturing district doesn't allow for residential uses, so that's a bad example. But if there, say, was an existing residential home nonconformity in the light manufacturing, they would have to comply with stricter noise requirements.
So the generators have to have some sort of sound muffling devices put on it? Is that what we're gonna require? I will tell you, I've been out of power for 8 days.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And at night, you hear everything. It's silent. So something's gonna have to, there's some kind of ordinance that they have sound baffling noises or containers over these generators to reduce the noise.
Now, yeah, the data center themselves would have to figure out how to keep their equipment under the required decibel limits that we specify, obviously. And that's at their property lines, not at neighboring property, you know. I shouldn't say that. It's not like in a residential home next to it, it would be at their specific property line. And they would actually, also there's monitoring data as well that would be required by the data center.
So I know that the data comes from the generator, what it produces in noise, but where it's placed and adjacent to other buildings, the sound bounces off concrete structures.
Mm-hmm.
That's never identified
Mm-hmm.
until it's put in place, and then they try to muffle it, and it never works.
Yeah, so that we actually touch base upon that as well in the ordinance. Well, first off, there is the very heavy screening that's required around the perimeter of the property. 100-foot buffer, and then a 25-foot planting buffer within that 100-foot buffer. The other thing is any accessories to the data center could not be facing a public street as well. So you know, that planting buffer is definitely going to hide a lot of what needs to go on, but you know, the extra step is those accessory uses that you mentioned will not be able to be seen from the road. You know, that's the overall objective. Mm.
The limitations of heating and power proposed are a little bit higher than what some other communities are requiring. Is it possible for us to lower the decibel levels? I think right now it says calling for 67 during the workday, then 57 is recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And some other ordinances have it around 55 to 50 during the day, and then 50 to 45 during the night.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that
Yeah, that's definitely something that that we should consider implementing in that regards. Those numbers that you specified as the surrounding municipalities are actually very closely aligned with how our zoning ordinance currently reads. So I think if we just simply reference those sections within our zoning ordinance, that we can eliminate the need to provide a different decibel level that for a data center, you know, so.
I see that there's a bunch in here about the effect on water quality, but I'm thinking if these data centers have their own power production, aside from the noise pollution that, you know, we're rightly concerned about, you know, potentially these power plants are going to be burning natural gas or burning gasoline, and you know, producing pollution from that that's not good for our air quality. Is there anything in this ordinance that addresses that? Because it's, you know, it has the potential to, I think, you know, cause a reduction in air quality if there's a, you know, 24/7 a gasoline burning engine or a natural gas burning engine running in the township, powering something that requires a lot of electricity, mm-hmm. which a data center would.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I do believe that there are some air quality requirements within the section, but as we go through it, then we can see if they're to your satisfaction, or if we would like to add, or if you guys would like to recommend adding any additional information to those sections. Said, if you guys don't mind, I can continue through the, yeah. Yeah, no worries. No problem.
I don't think I still hear anything around like potentially having them generate their own electricity, or would be, I saw that there is like a substation, utility line,
so that you raise a good point. Although we couldn't directly require them to generate their own electricity, there is a strong recommendation in this ordinance to be LEED certified and to provide solar power or any other power source as feasible to the. So that can be up for discussion. Obviously, if a data center ever came in, you guys can bring these points to the data center and kind of work with them on providing a happy medium.
What's the difference between a strong recommendation and a requirement? Is that like a pledge to provide your own power?
I'm sorry?
Like a strong recommendation and a requirement, like what's the difference? I mean, is it?
The legal difference.
Yeah, like what does that do? There's a strong recommendation.
Is that basically saying we recommend, you should do it?
Yeah, I mean, you recommend a lot of things,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it doesn't.
I think
Yeah.
that's plain for us that when we do the review, that's something that
we could insist on.
Yeah, like I would always, I would obviously bring up the point in my letter, and then we would have those discussions with whoever's presenting, you know, that the ordinance itself, and we will definitely get to that section at some point, but the ordinance itself recommends lead certifications and solar usage, and then they can present their case whether it's feasible to them or not, and the reasonings behind it, and maybe a happy medium can be found from there.
Well, based on that strong recommendation in the ordinance, would we have the option of not granting approval to a data center that otherwise complies with the ordinance based on them saying we would like to proceed without solar and LEED certification?
I'm going to defer to Steve on that one.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. If it was a requirement, then obviously they'd have to do it unless they got a waiver. If it's a strong recommendation, the argument can be made from a developer standpoint of, I understand your recommendation, but here's why we can't do it, and so on. The problem of being too restrictive in these ordinances is just that you end up opening yourself up to, you know, legal challenge. So it's always a balance, and I think that's what Hanover Engineering is trying to accommodate.
Yeah, we can't make them do a LEED certification to the building. Most architects design LEED-like, is what they say.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's their choice if they want to go gold, platinum, silver, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
be able to hear all this.
Did you hear that?
I heard that, yeah.
Okay. I'll put that back on. I do have a question about, I'm a big plant tree guy.
Yeah.
I have some concerns about,
Did you want to wait till we get to that section?
oh, I'm sorry, yes. Let's follow suit. I'm sorry, I don't want to bounce.
No, no worries. I mean, whatever we do discuss, if we then we can maybe cut past that part if need be. But yeah, if you guys don't mind, I can continue through here.
Go ahead.
So after the definitions, we have the conditional use permitted. As stated before, it will be a conditional use within the light manufacturing district. So it would be a permitted use with conditions. That being said, we have dimensional requirements such as minimum lot area of 10 acres. We have landscape buffers, which we will go into more detail on in a second. And then we have maximum building heights. And we have some restrictions on the accessory use in regards to its size compared to the data center itself. If there's no questions on that so far, I'll go into landscape buffers.
Can we discuss the setback?
Yes.
So here, the ordinance talks about setbacks of 200 feet from the boundary of the residential district. Comparatively, some ordinances are requiring between like 300 to 500, especially for the butts to residential. Is this something that we should be requiring a little bit more than 200?
So if the neighboring property is a residential property, the suggestion maybe we should look at having that setback be a little bit larger than 200 feet.
Yes.
Is there a number that you guys would be more intrigued to seeing? Like I said, the lot acreage is 10 acres minimum. So there definitely seems like there would be room to extend that setback further than 200 feet.
Based on the square footage of us, like 10 acres site, what's the max size building they could put up? Do we know that?
You know, the height.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. And one of the main reasons for that, especially in Lower Saucon's ordinance, it's very restrictive on on environmentally sensitive features, as you know. That usually is the dictating factor on where someone could build on a site. You know, environmentally sensitive woodlands has a max disturbance rate. Steep slopes have a max disturbance rate. Waterways, stuff like that. So, yeah.
It says there's a 200 feet setback for a residential zoning district or a sensitive receptor.
Yes.
If there's hypothetically 2 lots with data centers in a light manufacturing district, then what's the lot line setback? What's the setback? Because I don't see a setback requirement when there isn't a residential district or a sensitive receptor neighboring the.
Yes, so then it would be dictated by the light manufacturing minimum setback distance. I get that number for you then.
And while Andrew's looking, perhaps what you might want to do is consider, okay, 200 feet seems a little too close. What would you feel comfortable, or what would you recommend? Maybe 250, maybe 300? So then, you know, it's helpful for him and it's helpful for all of us if we say, you know, here's what we don't like and here's what we'd like to see.
I'd be more comfortable with fencing personally, you know, especially if it's like a children's school, or, you know, I can tell you that it's not a data center, but it's a warehouse. The temple my family goes to, the parking lot is, they're building a warehouse right behind it, and one of the things we're worried about is children wandering onto the warehouse parking lot, and there's trucks coming through, and that's makes everyone nervous. Fencing would be, I guess data centers aren't going to have trucks necessarily, but fencing would make me more comfortable than a setback, personally.
I think there is something called fencing, but that facing road, residential zone not incorporate more than 2 design changes.
Oh, is there something?
Have some kind of including a fencing. I would be more comfortable from 300 feet to the minimum, because from everything that I was reading around, like the noise that it can create and all of that, that's the biggest issue when you're abutting these residential areas or some sensitive areas. It's the noise level, because it travels, and the landscape buffer and all of that doesn't do much for the noise.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
I agree.
Yeah, I wasn't considering the noise aspect when I said fencing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the 300.
Yeah.
So sorry, I misspoke earlier. It is dictated by the light manufacturing district. However, the light manufacturing districts are less restrictive than the landscape buffering required around the site of 100 feet. So although the light manufacturing district has setbacks ranging for side, rear from like 25 to 50, those wouldn't be applicable. They would have to adhere to the 100-foot setback for the landscape buffer around their property.
Okay. So
we would recommend a 300-foot setback, changing the 200 to 300.
So we recommend a 300.
300 for just strictly residential uses, or for all uses?
Well, residential and sensitive receptors. I mean, schools and that sort of thing also.
All right, is there any other questions or concerns on dimensional requirements?
Sorry,
Yeah, no worries.
I feel like the sensitive receptor list is kind of like, it's exclusive. In other words, it lists these things, but I could imagine a situation where there is, you know, some sort of entity, you know, sharing a lot line with a potential data center that, you know, fits at least the spirit of these things on this list, but might not fit the definition.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if there was like some sort of catch-all provision where, you know, things like this, you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's some other facility that does the things in section B on page 3, or, you know, that you know, we could also apply this setback provision for that other facility. In other words, the developer couldn't say, no, it's not one of these things on this list.
Yeah, so let me read off the sensitive receptors list, and then if you guys want to provide any additional receptors that you would think should be added to the list. So for the purpose of this section, sensitive receptors shall be defined as residential uses, schools, preschools, daycare centers, in-home daycares, long-term care facilities, retirement and nursing homes, community centers, places of worships, parks, excluding trails, campgrounds, prisons, and dormitories. So we tried to hit all of the boxes of what we would see as a typical use within that district, whether it's an existing nonconformity or a permitted use that exists. So
yeah, so what I would suggest is taking out the word "and" after dormitories, comma, and then something like, or any other facility providing similar services to the community.
Okay.
And that's what I was getting at, because
yeah, and that can at least give you guys some flexibility to enforce it upon you know, a data center that comes up next to another use that you feel is necessary to have that 300-foot setback.
And I think while we're doing this, we should keep in mind also the practical reality of what the light manufacturing district is in Lower Saucon. So I mean, it's not like, it's a good idea to have this. It's good planning to have all this. It's very unlikely a daycare center is going to go next to the landfill.
no,
But it's important to be careful. And
Yes, it is.
I'm not suggesting these are bad ideas. In fact, these are very good ideas. So let's keep that in mind as we go.
Okay.
I mean, you live next to the warehouse, right? Like there's houses there that could be.
I moved out there before these were built.
Yeah.
No, these are all, that's a good idea, expanding the definition.
Should all stay on the north side of East Road. Sorry.
So that being said, I'm going to continue on to landscape buffers.
Mm-hmm.
So this section requires the applicant of a data center to provide a 100-foot landscape buffer around the perimeter of the property. Within that 100-foot landscape buffer, 25-foot tree vegetative row would be required of heavy density. We also require within this section that on the record plans, the applicant is responsible for the maintenance and responsibility of all those trees, and to adhere to, you know, strict guidelines as to what size trees are required, what form of, you know, barrier we would like to create from that landscape buffer. So they're not just planting one tree every 50 feet and saying that that's their landscape buffer, you know.
I thought this part was really solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If there's no comments on that, then I'm going to go to section E, screening and fencing.
Well, I did have a question about, so what page are you on?
The 6. As you can see, the landscape buffer section is like a page and a half.
Page 5. I have a question. So
Yep.
On deciduous trees,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're every 75 linear feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the deciduous tree. There are different canopy sizes, and that might be too great of a distance for a deciduous tree to grow, and you can grow more to create a larger buffer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that 75 is way too much. And I also think that ornamental flowering trees, the same, 50 linear feet is way too large.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would want to see more of a larger green buffer around the facility than open stuff. That's my opinion.
Really
I guess
understandable.
it depends on the size. It depends on the variety of the deciduous tree they're planting. Maple trees have a very large canopy.
Mm-hmm.
And so do oaks, but some trees do not. So,
Yeah, so they would have to adhere to the township's planting list, which has
correct, okay.
allowed and prohibited trees. Unfortunately, I don't have that list on
No,
me.
that's fine, I have
Yeah.
it on.
Oh, do you? Okay, cool.
I totally forgot about that. But I still think that 75 feet, 50 feet may be too great, but that's just my opinion.
You want to recommend changing that?
I would recommend changing 75 to like 60, and ornamental tree to 40 is my recommendation.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. What I will do though is take a look at the list and determine if those trees are okay to be planted at those intervals, which I don't see an issue with, but you know, just to be on the safe side there.
Right.
And then,
Because when they order trees, they order light trees.
Yeah.
And they plant a bunch of them. So, where I like to see a variety of trees planted, so it creates a, it's just not the same. So a variety of trees are better, but that's up to them. But I don't want to see the warehouses is what I'm getting at, but I really don't. But I'm okay now.
Okay. Sorry, let's go back though to page 4. It actually discusses evergreen trees being required at
50 feet.
Page 4.
Yep.
Evergreen trees used in the screen planting shall be at least 6 feet high when planted and shall be of such species as will produce a dense visual screen at least 10 feet high within 4 years. So I think that would help fill in some of the gaps that you were referring to, but I definitely do like the idea of let's shrink some of those bigger trees down to you know, tighten up the visual look from a higher standpoint
so
too.
When you go down Easton Road now, the one row house that's closest to the Lutheran, or I don't know what church that is, by Mockingbird Lane at the bottom. So all those trees there are the same deciduous trees. There's no evergreen trees. So you can't make them put evergreen trees in. They're gonna decide what they want to do. So I saw the evergreen tree, which I was satisfied with the proximity of how close they were. So it's just something when I see the landscaping plan, I can tell them to add more if I want to.
Yeah, completely understandable.
Also, it says 1/3 of those trees will be of single variety, so they cannot do more than 1/3 of the same.
Okay.
In that same 1B, 1B, with the evergreen trees.
Yeah, that's I believe that's in place just so that the same species of evergreen isn't provided across the board. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at least you have to have 3 different ones.
Varieties.
Now there is a section after the tree requirements that kind of gives it up to the township to decide if existing vegetation around the site can account for that vegetative buffer, which is understandable. I mean, you would hate to have to see someone cut down trees only to replant smaller ones, you know, so.
Totally agree.
Now I would like to go on to screening and fencing, if that's all right.
Yes.
So section 1 of E1 talks about visual screening and noise reduction for roof-mounted equipment by having that roof-mounted equipment at least 300 feet away from a road. So if the building itself is, for instance, 200 feet, but the building's 200 feet long, that equipment can't be directly at the edge of the building. It would need to be pushed back further. That would, yet again, help hide that that roof-mounted equipment. Now,
We're talking about changing that setback to 300 feet.
correct. So that's where I was gonna
Okay.
get to next is, do we want to keep that setback of the 300 feet the same?
Well, that would mean that it's in the front of the building.
Yeah, we can just make it 400 then. I mean, that'll be even better because that projection is probably the thing that makes noise, right? So then the noise making part of the building is 400 feet away from the.
Yeah, or they would have to find a place on their site that doesn't front a road that they can mount that software that's not on the roof of the building itself.
Yeah, I mean, they have 10 acres to work with. They should probably be able to swing it.
Mm-hmm.
I support that.
All right, so we're recommending changing that 300 feet to 400 feet.
That's for roof-mounted equipment, correct?
Roof-mounted equipment.
Correct. So this section, the remainder of this section appears to just specify if the applicant were to use fencing for something or another, that it would provide, barrier for visual aspects to whatever it's fencing. So. Section F is noise and vibration. So this is where I discuss the decibel levels that are provided in this noise and vibration section are a little inconsistent with how our ordinance is specified across the board for in the zoning. I think it would be more beneficial to have it directly in line with what type of use is next to the data center, and therefore be more restrictive on what, or I shouldn't say more restrictive, but the restriction be based off of if there's a residential home next to it versus a warehouse next to it.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Making this more consistent with our policy would be, lowering some of these decibels.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other comment on noise and vibration?
Nope.
As compared to, our current ordinances for other businesses, is this like comparable? I mean, is there a town ordinances regarding noise and vibration for other sorts of businesses?
There's a neighborhood protection section of the zoning ordinance that covers all uses. And in that, it describes decibel levels as well as vibration, lighting, stuff like that. Just ways to physically measure something that could potentially harm a neighbor. For instance, lighting. We want to make sure that the foot candles at the property line are within the range that the ordinance requires.
I'm just asking, does this sound louder? Is this decibel level louder than we allow for other businesses, or is it comparable?
It's comparable for, I believe, if an industrial use is next to it. If there is a residential use, I believe that requirement, the decibel level is a little less.
Okay, well, that's where you have the setbacks for, right?
No, I was hoping to have this section of the ordinance directly aligned with how our ordinance has the neighborhood protection.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the next section is water and sewer. Now,
Perhaps before we go too much into depth, because that has a lot of concern, that is one of the areas that's been really heavily reviewed from the time that we issued this to you guys. So we've had comments from other sources about tightening this up, about utilizing other standards, having requirements. So feel free to give your own comments, but you don't have to go too deep into it because already other people are already doing this. So, and this is one of the primary concerns that people have is, how is this going to affect the water? There's wells and people with wells nearby and so on and so forth. So I'm not suggesting ignore it. I'm just suggesting we're going to get a lot of other comments from other sources about that already, including the LVPC.
So affecting the water meaning the size of the building, or?
The water uses that they have.
Water uses that they have, and then how it
And the
affects.
waste.
And the waste, or the real concern is the waste.
So what would they be using the water for water-cooled air conditioning units?
Yeah, and then what they do with it once it's done.
To cool the units, yeah, it's very like water heavy use, extremely water heavy use.
Right.
Also fire suppression. You know, they're going to need like a warehouse this size is going to need a lot of water capacity to run the fire suppression for this size building. And they're going to need public water to do that. A well's not going to provide that kind of pressure.
That being said, there are regulations in regards to if a well were to be used, because based off of the locality of the light manufacturing district, there's not always readily available public water along the roadways. So that's why this section specifically is very lengthy in that regards.
About well usage.
Just well usage, water usage in general too, public as well as sewer, which isn't as much of a concern, but still a concern.
It goes into a lot of detail. Is there anything that you can think of specific to data centers that would?
So what I've seen for water cooling towers is specifically even at the Homer Research Center when we have bought it, there's a very large pond in the front that it draws the water from, so it constantly puts it back to release the heat and bring it back. So they could create a pond, so to speak, to do that, to recycle their water.
Yeah, I agree. Like,
Rather than
usually
putting it,
there's the closed loop system.
it's like a closed loop system, but it releases the heat naturally. So that could be done.
Yeah, less perforation and then also like less pollution if they have that.
That's only if they're able to build a pond, but yes. And usually they have fountains and whatnot to help further the cooling there, but rather than put it back into the earth and at a hotter than 55 degrees, it's going to be hotter than that.
Yeah, I believe this section does touch base on temperatures as well. Sorry, through
That's
this.
okay.
So they do have temperature. I mean, they were going to require temperature monitoring if it's released back into the environment.
And none of the water will have any additives like antifreeze to help, so that it wouldn't allow the water to freeze up. So no additives would be allowed.
The problem is sometimes
That's only in a closed loop system you want that.
you could have a leak too, right?
Correct.
The two pipes are touching each other. One's around the other one. It could be internally.
It could. Copper's known to do that.
Huh?
Copper's known to do that.
Yeah. Soft.
Although specific requirements for testing of temperatures or redischarge aren't mentioned, this section of the ordinance does rely on DEP's heavily strict requirements on those. So.
Yeah.
They'll have to go through the Northampton County Conservation District, which is going to be tough. So I understand that.
And I think there was information about like water resource impact study that we need to submit.
Correct. Yes.
So that should cover what's compatible with the environment.
Correct. Yeah. So section H. So this is page 17. Discusses an environmental impact assessment that needs to be performed by the applicant, and it goes through quite an extensive list of requirements that that applicant would have to submit to us. Is there any other comments on well and sewer, or water and sewer?
So if there's no public sewer, they're going to be doing an on-site septic system.
Correct.
Yeah.
We would have to go through all the regular and make sure that it's actually possible to occur on their site too.
It's just like a house, so.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Andrew, this is gonna get reworked, I think, when we get input from like the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission and stuff. There's gonna be stuff added to it, this section.
Correct, yeah.
So we'll have another chance to look at it when it has the new stuff in it.
That I don't know.
To be clear, this is since we're moving quickly,
Okay.
this will not come back before our plan, I don't anticipate it will come back before our planning commission before it's enacted.
Okay.
I think the goal for the township is get one on the books, and even if it's not ideal, then we can always amend as we go.
Yeah, okay.
But I just want you guys to be aware of that there's not gonna be a second look for this ordinance.
Okay.
Right.
So this is our chance to say that.
This is our best chance with the best information we have at this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Some cities do put like a water consumption cap on their daily use. Is that something that we're interested in doing?
so something that's mentioned in the beginning is of this section is having whatever supplier, and I say whatever supplier is because if the water lateral or the water main in front of the property could potentially be City of Bethlehem in some areas of Lower Saucon, or it could be the authorities. They are required to receive for us to get documentation from that supplier that they have adequate supply to serve that use. So if it's not necessarily, or if that area is limited already with and the data center requires significantly more than what's required, or what's available, then they wouldn't be able to do what they need to do there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I saw that we had will serve kind of requirements in the city. I don't know. Yeah, that's another kind of like element that we could, if we wanted to, put in place on top of that, like requiring, even though the provider can serve a certain amount of water, capping it on a daily use, so there's no, they can anticipate the need, I guess, in the supply.
So let me ask you a question. Monitoring wells. Is this a well? A well is water you're drawing from, and that waste is going to go somewhere. A boring is different. It's a closed loop system. So are they able to do a cooling system with a closed loop system? And therefore there's no water waste. And if you're sending the heated water up here back into the earth at 500 feet, but I don't know what our township's geothermal is what I'm going at. So they would just be it would be opposite of what you would use geothermal for. It would be cooling. Well, it's cooling here, and then it's sending the heat back to earth to cool the liquid to send back. So there's no water waste because in that closed loop they put so much antifreeze so it doesn't freeze up. So is there any there's probably no language in there about borings.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Would they be able to do a boring system?
I don't see why they wouldn't be able to, specifically because it would only be beneficial to, I guess, all parties in that regards. Maybe even themselves as well, that may cut back on cost, or if they don't have adequate supply of water in the area, then maybe that can help them achieve what they need to with what they have.
Okay, I'm only saying because I've been involved in 200 borings at 500 feet for two major projects that work very well, and it's nice. So somehow it'd be nice for that language to be put in here, if it could be, for them to say, maybe that's an alternative than wasting water.
Yeah, so like giving them sort of a recommendation to provide that closed loop system.
10 acres is a lot of land to use for something like that.
Yeah. Now, are you familiar with if that closed loop system would be like a LEED certification?
Well, it could be, but you don't have to use it as that.
Okay. Because I was just curious if that would be covered under like the recommendation to be LEED certified and provide like provisions such as solar and stuff like that.
It definitely provides points if they want to go LEED.
Yeah.
I don't see too many projects going LEED anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not.
Mm-hmm. That's
why they call them LEED-like, because they're all designed that way anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I can look into seeing you know, how we can provide recommendation for such.
For borings.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, is there a requirement that any applicant get approval from DEP or get a review from DEP before proceeding?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, is that in here or is that a separate requirement?
So if they're over an acre, they would be required to, of course, obtain an NPDES permit. Also, if they're using a sewer of any kind, they're going to have to get a planning module from DEP as well.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so that was already, that would be required already and doesn't need to be in our ordinance.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
But the planning modular would come into effect if they were connected to the Bethlehem sewer system, correct?
I'm sorry, I was making notes on your previous.
The planning modular would come into effect if they were connected to the Bethlehem sewer system.
The planning module would come into effect, I believe, if they're connecting to any sewer system.
But in our township goes to the Bethlehem sewer system.
Correct. Yes.
So we'd have to get them to provide the planning modular then too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any additional comments on water and sewer? The next section then is on page 18, power supply. This section discusses the requirements to, you know, obviously have adequate power supply and, you know, requires the data center to provide documentation that they can get the power needed based off their usage. If there's no comments on power supply, I'm going to...
I have one comment. This might be a good place to put in something about, you know, before proceeding, like an assessment on the impact on air quality in the township. If you're going to have an emergency generator or your own power supply and it runs on natural gas or runs on gasoline or whatever fuel source, and that fuel source is burning, I mean, it's going to add, it's going to potentially affect the air quality in the township, and I think there should be an assessment of it.
Yeah. So that's actually covered pretty extensively in our neighborhood protection section of the ordinance as well. But if you would like reference to that section, we can do that as well.
I think so, because obviously I didn't put it together.
You could reference any power supply uses that they would have that would contribute to air contaminants. Reference this section that we have.
Yeah. So I will do that, and then I'll also verify the neighborhood protection has adequate language to what you stated too. So
okay.
Because usually they use the generators as a backup, and I didn't see anything around like the generator noise or testing the generators work properly every so often.
Yeah, that's up code, that law. They'll have to test their generators so many times a year.
Oh, so that's linked to the
well, that's
noise
part
protection?
of the. Well, I don't know if that's linked to the noise protection, but generators, it's common to test them monthly, and then do load testing on them at least once a year if it's required of that facility. So.
And it is covered in our ordinance?
That I don't know, but that's usually
What's part of their preventive maintenance plan
right,
for the generators?
That, or it's part of the, yeah, it would be part of their plan.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it being explicitly covered in our ordinance, in regards to testing them. But in regards to the noise itself, they will have to comply with those noise requirements previously stated. If they have a generator that ends up being extra noisy, or, you know, a component on it breaks and is causing harm, then obviously the township can enforce their regulations on them.
But will the generator, be covered with the, neighborhood protection ordinance around like pollution? Because they're the bigger polluters, they have to like crank up the generator.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be covered under, is it covered anywhere else in our ordinance, and they have to abide by those, limits?
That's a good point. I believe that section of the ordinance, you know, obviously has regulations on the certain, fuels or, materials that can be used for, powering said generator, but I don't know if it explicitly says, you know, you can't have 400 generators operating because the air quality is bad because of it. I think there's just certain restrictions that the site as a whole would have to abide by. So whether it's through the generators or through, you know, other uses.
They're just measuring noise overall, not specific sources of the noise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. Now, as Steve mentioned previously too, an amendment to this ordinance can occur at a later period too. So if you guys have any additional thoughts as time goes on, you know, we can always look into, you know, amending this ordinance section to accommodate those things.
What is the likelihood any of this could be brought to light to them to make the change? 50%, 40%, or none at all, and we should just table this for an amendment?
You mean all the changes we're making now?
Well, the suggested changes.
Yeah.
These are suggested for them to look at. How likely is it that they will look at this and take it into consideration to make a change?
You're asking what's the likelihood of township councils
Correct.
following some of these recommendations?
Yes.
It's impossible to estimate, but they want it, and it's new, so they wanted input. So,
Well, Victoria's on the phone, right? Just ask her.
Yes.
well, you can't, I
Yeah,
wouldn't put her in that
imagine
spot.
I know, but I'm just saying.
No, because
but
what's happening is
I want to save this.
from a practical standpoint, the township and Hanover Engineering is going to receive comments from all sorts of direction. First of all, the Planning Commission,
Correct.
LVPC, without question,
Right.
members of Township Council. Right. So what the final product is going to be, if your question is, hey, if we have 12 of these, are there going to be 10 of them going to be implemented? Or I suspect they're all going to be looked at.
Right,
Yeah.
but more
There could be
specifically.
conflicting.
No, I
items,
get that, but more specifically, we're getting this at the tail end of the approval.
Not really. You're getting it. It's moving quickly, but it's moving quickly on purpose.
Okay.
And there was a concerted effort.
Okay.
And quite frankly, part of it was from myself and the manager. We want this on the books, and we'd much rather see an ordinance that is 90% correct.
Right.
Now on this type of issue, rather than having 100% correct 6 months from now.
Okay.
Because something might happen in that 4 months that would be problematic. So don't blame Hanover Engineering for this one. Blame me.
No, I'm not.
If anyone.
I'm not. I just want to be able to see that some of these could make it.
Oh, I think they will. I think they will.
All right, so I'm going to move on to emergency management. This requires the applicant to prepare what's called an emergency response plan, and that's got to be done by a qualified professional. And there's details specific to what that emergency response plan shall provide. If you'd like, I can go in through them individually, or if you've already breezed through them yourselves, then we can take any questions or comments.
I mean, it says ensure that all first responders receive adequate training. I mean, that seems like, I mean, is the data center supposed to train the volunteer fire department? I mean, that I mean, that would be great. Actually, that would be great. Is the data center supposed to train the volunteer fire department in data center firefighting? I think that's a great idea.
Large facilities usually do that, where they invite them in and
Yeah, so
run through all the equipment.
I believe it's more just to get our local fire department familiar with what is involved in their particular data center, because obviously all of them are going to be different, and also for access purposes and stuff like that. Just, you know, if everyone has a good feel for the lay of the lands, and you know, the data center obviously knows the best routes to preventing issues happening, as well as you know, if an issue happens, what to do from there. So it's more of a collaborational effort, I would feel, is and this particular section, as well as the majority of the ordinance, was as Steve mentioned earlier, was taken from a data center ordinance that already exists, that's implemented. So
I just want to get in item 2. It says whether the energy is stored for use on-site or off-site. Am I correct to say, meaning it's not interior or exterior of the building, right? Location of the battery storage. So if it's exterior, batteries are known to start fires, and putting them out could take a lot of water. And the location of those batteries could start fires outside the area, and that to protect it in a protected surrounding if they're outside the storage of the facility.
yeah, so I believe this section is relying heavily on the National Fire Protection Association requirements in regards to battery storage, because the township ordinance obviously doesn't have a lengthy requirement for battery storage.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that language is there in order to kind of cover everyone in regards to, no matter where the batteries are stored, you need to comply with these strict requirements on the storage.
If the data center company is storing batteries at, like, you know, a storage company, then they're still required to follow this requirement. Because off-site to me means not within the 10-acre lot. Is that what it means for this? Because if it was outdoors, wouldn't it just say outdoors?
So the storage batteries are backup energy for them.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, to answer your question, I would assume that section also states exactly what you're saying. So whether the batteries are stored within the particular site itself, or they're taken to a battery storage facility or something, they have to comply with these regulations.
Okay.
Section K on page 20 is aesthetics. This particular section just talks about the architectural features of the building itself.
Concrete.
If that's good with you, I'm going to go to parking.
And parking was one that was heavily discussed by the LVPC already about increasing the parking requirements under these circumstances. So I think they've already addressed that. They're going to want more parking.
More parking.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you're feel free to make any comments you want. LVPC is already addressed that, or has addressed that.
Okay.
So that was going to be one of my discussion points, but now that LVPC is working on that, sounds like they're... So section 4 is severity. This is just, it appears typical language in regards...
I can go through those.
Yeah, please.
Severability means that if, for whatever reason, any portion of the ordinance was found to be improper or illegal or otherwise, the rest of it is good. So that's common. You see this in all ordinances. Repealer says that everything prior to this is repealed, meaning this is brand new and this is controlled. Codification means it goes to the official books of at the courthouse and so on. It's effective 5 days after, which is what the law states. That's the standard stuff you see in the ordinance. So, if you want, I took some notes and I'll take a shot at this first if you don't mind. I think what you said, if I'm hitting the big spots, is you were looking to reduce the noise volume you don't have to write this down, I'll say.
Okay.
You wanted Hanover Engineering to look at buffers. You wanted to look at air quality concerns and the impact on air quality. You wanted the confirmation of a strong recommendation of LED certification and solar usage. So you wanted them to look at that more and sort of tighten that up. You wanted the setbacks from residential zoning districts and sensitive receptors changed from 200 feet to 300 feet. You wanted to look at whether fencing was a requirement or not, or maybe it should be a requirement. You wanted to look at expanding the definition of sensitive receptors and expanding that definition for other similar uses. With regard to trees on page 5, you wanted to reduce the difference, or the area between, from 75 to 60 feet for shade trees, and for ornamental from 50 to 40. You want to push roof-mounted equipment away from 300 feet to 400 feet. You wanted to look at lowering decibels for noise and have it aligned with neighborhood districts. You wanted to look at water usage and follow the recommendations of the LVPC, looking at a possibility of a closed loop system. You want to coordinate power supply sections with other requirements and other sections of the ordinance. And you wanted to increase parking in accordance with the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. That's what I got.
The one with the setback of 400 feet, it's probably good to note that that is in conjunction with the changing the setback from 300 feet.
Yeah, that's for the
So
projections.
not to confuse people.
Right. Yep. So
and also one other thing, when you mentioned the air quality or air pollution, that was in reference to the energy sources.
Yeah, for fossil fuel burning generators.
So if I accurately depicted what your recommendations were with the amendments that were provided, somebody could make a motion to make those recommendations to Township Council. And what I'll do is then I have it on an email, which I'll send to Molly, which then she'll get over to them.
Do we have a motion to recommend the findings or these recommendations? Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so we'll move forward with that. All right. Any other questions on that one item? All right, so next is to approve the minutes from way back, October 23rd, 2025. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
Hi, this is Victoria. I just wanted to, as a liaison from the township side, I wanted to share with the planning commission that on Monday, March 16th from 7 to 9:30, the LVPC is going to be in Lower Saucon, specifically at Saucon Valley High School, to kind of do their first community intake of looking at our zoning and planning, and getting some feedback from the community on what people would like to see and not like to see in our community across the entire township. So I'm hopeful that members of Planning Commission can come to that and tell your neighbors and friends in the township to also attend. It's just a way for everybody to participate, and this is really looking at something that would make a big difference in the future for the next generation of people in our township, and your grandchildren and children. Looking forward to trying to develop a community that would be sustainable for everybody, no matter where they live. So I want to encourage everybody to do that, and also let you know that I think that the LVPC may also want to come to planning, but the first step is to come to the 16th.
What was the time for that one?
7 to 9:30.
It's 7 to 9:30, and it's gonna be at Saucon Valley High School, and they're gonna have a very much of an interactive experience. They're gonna give some presentation, but also have, different ideas of different types of, commercial uses, just different types of other uses that you can, help generate interest in where you'd like to see those go, and comments and feedback that they'd like to receive from the community on what is important.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Do we have any public comments, citizen non-agenda items?
No citizens.
Hmm?
We have no citizens.
Well, you can speak up to as being on the other side of the table. All right, so with that, we adjourn for tonight's meeting.
All right.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, Molly.
Bye, Victoria. Take care.
Bye, Victoria.
Bye, Victoria.
Bye, Victoria.
What happened to that sheets on 378?
I don't know.
I guess they're building other sheets on Main Street on